Lesson 120, Rationalizing a Denominator, and the appendix lesson, find the equation of a perpendicular line. First off, let's look at what they mean by rationalizing a denominator. Rationalizing just means a method of removing a radical, and a radical has this symbol in it, the square root symbol, in the denominator of a fraction. So if you see, we have a fraction here, and we have a radical in the denominator, so the square root of 2. To rationalize it, we need to multiply the radical in the denominator by itself to get a whole number, because a radical times itself is a whole number. In this example, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4, which is 2. So you can either put it as a square root of 4 and then simplify it to 2, or just know that a radical multiplied by itself is always the radicand. Whatever's on the inside, that's what the answer would be. And then whatever you do in the denominator, you must also do in the numerator. And this 5 times the square root of 2 is just 5 square root of 2. So again, multiply the radical in the denominator by itself to get a whole number, and multiply the radical by the numerator, and then simplify your answer. So a sample problem. An isosceles right triangle with a hypotenuse of 1 has legs of the length shown. Express the length with a rational denominator. So just remember a isosceles right triangle, the legs are the same length. So we need to express the length with a rational denominator. So the length is 1 over the square root of 2. We don't want the square root of 2 in the denominator, so we need to multiply by the radical in the denominator. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. Whatever I do in the denominator, I do in the numerator. So 1 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 2. And so our answer would be square root of 2 over 2. Rationalize these denominators in our second example. Multiply by the square root of 5. Square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 5. Multiply by the square root of 5 in the numerator. We have 3 square root of 5 over 5. Next, multiply by the square root of 3. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. Multiply by the square root of 3 in the numerator. You get 6 square root of 3. But here I can simplify even further. I can divide a 3 in the denominator, 3 in the numerator. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So my answer would be 2 square root of 3. And the last one here, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. Multiplied by the square root of 2 in the numerator. Square root of 3 times square root of 2 is the square root of 6. I cannot break down the square root of 6 any further, so this would be my answer. Next example is rationalize the denominators here. So multiply this by the square root of 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. Multiply by the square root of 2 in the numerator. You get 3 square root of 2. Check to see if we can simplify. We cannot, so this would be our answer. Next, square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. Multiply by the square root of 2 in the numerator, and I get 4 square root of 2. I can simplify because 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I would end up with 2 square root of 2. Next one, multiply by the square root of 3. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. Multiply in the numerator by the square root of 3, and you get the square root of 3 over 3, and that would be our answer. Next, multiply by the square root of 3. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. Multiply by the square root of 3 in the numerator, and I get 2 times the square root of 3. So hopefully you're starting to see a pattern here. Whatever you multiply in the denominator, multiply in the numerator, and the denominator is always going to be the same. Whatever number you're multiplying by, whatever the radicand is, that's what the denominator is going to equal without the radical symbol. The next one, 8 divided by the square root of 8. So square root of 8 times square root of 8 is 8. Multiply by the square root of 8 in the numerator, and I get 8 square root of 8. The 8's divide out, and that gives me 1, which just means 1 times the square root of 8, or the square root of 8. And the last one here, we got the square root of 10 times the square root of 10 gives us 10. Multiply by the square root of 10 in the numerator, and we get 5 square root of 10. Simplify, divide a 5 here and get 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So my answer would be square root of 10 divided by 2. Next, rationalize these denominators. So multiply this by the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. We end up with square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. Square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 6. I cannot simplify 6 and 3 because this is a square root of 6, not 6. So this would have to remain as a square root of 6 divided by 3. And the last one here, multiply by the square root of 2, which gives us 2. Multiply this by the square root of 2, and that would give us 2 times the square root of 6. The 2's divide out, and I'm left with the square root of 6. And our last thing for today is our appendix lesson, finding the equation of a perpendicular line. In a previous lesson, we looked at finding the equation of a line that's parallel to a line. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocals of each other. So an example would be if the slope is 2, the negative reciprocal would be a negative 1 over 2. So you just take the reciprocal of the slope that you have and then do the opposite sign. So if it's a positive 2, the negative reciprocal is a negative half. If it was a negative 2, the negative reciprocal would be 1 half. So here, write the equation of the line through point 0, 1, which is perpendicular to the line y equals 2x minus 5. So there's negative reciprocal of 2 is negative 1 half. So I have y, still going to use y equals mx plus b. So my slope right here is going to be a negative half. My x is 0. My y is 1. And I need to find my b. So negative half of 0 is 0 plus b equals 1. So 1 equals our b. So my equation would be y equals my slope, negative half, x plus 1. And that line would be perpendicular to y equals 2x minus 5. And our last one here, the negative reciprocal of negative 4/3, I would use 3/4 because it already has negatives, so the opposite of a negative is positive. So I would have my y being 2. I have 3/4 as my slope. My x is 4 plus my b. So I simplify, 4 divided by 4 is 1, 3 times 1 is 3, plus b equals 2. To get b by itself, I subtract 3. I get a negative 1 equals my b. So my equation would be y equals 3/4 x minus 1. So that is our lesson today on rationalizing the denominator and the appendix lesson, finding an equation of a perpendicular line.